What if I told you that the single most effective fix for your car's rough idle, mystery check engine light, sluggish transmission, and dozens of other maddening quirks has been sitting under your hood the entire time, completely free, and taking less than 60 seconds to perform? No mechanic wants you to know this. No dealership service department will ever bring it up because it costs them exactly $0 in labor and parts, and that means $0 in profit for them. This isn't a gimmick, and it isn't some sketchy additive you pour into your gas tank hoping for a miracle. It's a technique that Japanese engineers built directly into the design philosophy of nearly every modern engine control unit, or ECU, on the road today, from Toyota to Honda to Nissan and beyond. The trick is deceptively simple: a full power cycle of your car's onboard computer, which forces it to forget every bad habit, every misfire pattern, and every adaptive learning error it has quietly accumulated over months or years of driving. Think of it like restarting a laptop that's been running for 6 months straight, clogged with background processes you didn't even know were there. Your car's brain works the same way. It learns your driving style, your fuel trims, your idle patterns, and sometimes it learns the wrong lessons. Today, I'm counting down the 7 biggest problems this zero-cost reset can resolve, in order of how dramatically drivers report noticing the difference. Number 7. Rough or inconsistent idle. Rough idling is one of the most common complaints car owners bring to shops, and it's also one of the most frequently misdiagnosed. Drivers often assume the worst: a failing idle air control valve, a vacuum leak, or a dying fuel injector. While those are real possibilities, a surprisingly large percentage of rough idle cases trace back to something far less dramatic: corrupted adaptive idle data stored in the ECU. Modern engines don't just run off a fixed set of instructions. They constantly adjust idle speed based on learned patterns from sensors monitoring throttle position, mass airflow, and engine temperature over time. When these learned values drift due to a temporary sensor glitch, a bad batch of fuel, or even just cold weather extremes, the ECU can lock in an incorrect idle baseline and keep applying it indefinitely, long after the original cause has resolved itself. This is where the reset trick shines. By fully depowering the ECU, you force it to discard those corrupted learned values entirely and rebuild its idle map from scratch using fresh, real-time sensor data. Owners who perform this reset often describe the difference as night and day, a formerly shaky, fluctuating idle smoothing out within the first few minutes of driving afterward. It's important to understand this isn't a permanent fix if there's an actual mechanical fault underneath, but for the huge number of idle complaints caused by nothing more than confused computer memory. This free trick resolves the issue completely, and it explains why so many Japanese mechanics quietly recommend it as the very first troubleshooting step before touching a single part. Number 6. Phantom check engine lights. There are few things more frustrating than a check engine light illuminating your dashboard with no accompanying symptoms whatsoever. The car drives fine, sounds fine, and yet that little orange glow sits there mocking you every time you start the ignition. In a significant number of these cases, the underlying trigger was a one-time sensor hiccup, a brief voltage fluctuation, or a temporary reading that fell outside normal parameters for just a moment before self-correcting. The problem is that once a fault code gets stored, most ECUs won't clear it on their own, even after the condition returns to normal, because the system is designed to flag anything unusual for a technician to review. This is precisely the scenario Japanese engineers anticipated when building reset protocols into their systems. A full power cycle clears the stored diagnostic trouble codes and gives every sensor a genuine clean slate to report from. If the underlying issue was truly transient, the light stays off permanently. If it was a real, ongoing problem, the light returns within a short drive cycle, which actually gives you valuable diagnostic information for free, telling you definitively whether you're dealing with a phantom glitch or a genuine mechanical concern worth investigating further. This single distinction can save drivers hundreds of dollars in unnecessary diagnostic fees at a shop, since many shops charge simply to plug in a scanner and read codes that a $0 reset could have cleared and re-evaluated for you at home. It's a simple, elegant piece of built-in troubleshooting logic that most drivers never learn about. Number 5. Sluggish or jerky transmission shifting. Automatic transmissions in modern vehicles, particularly those built with Japanese engineering, rely heavily on adaptive shift logic that continuously fine-tunes shift points based on how you drive. Aggressive acceleration, stop-and-go traffic, towing, or even a single stretch of highway driving at unusual RPMs can all subtly influence this learned data over time. When that data drifts from optimal, drivers often notice hesitant shifts, harsh clunks between gears, or a transmission that seems to hunt indecisively between two gear ratios on hills. Replacing a transmission control module or having a shop perform a full relearn procedure can run into hundreds of dollars. Yet a large portion of these symptoms stem from nothing more than an outdated adaptive shift table that simply needs to be wiped and rebuilt. Performing the reset clears this stored transmission learning data, forcing the control module to relearn optimal shift points from a neutral baseline as you drive normally over the following days. Owners frequently report that shifts become noticeably smoother within the first 50 to 100 miles after the reset, as the system recalibrates itself to current conditions rather than outdated ones. This is especially valuable after purchasing a used vehicle, where the previous owner's driving habits may have left behind shift logic poorly suited to your own patterns. It's a completely free alternative to an expensive relearned service, and it explains why this trick has become something of an open secret among independent Japanese import specialists who don't want to charge customers for something a simple reset handles just as effectively. Number 4. Poor fuel economy without explanation. Few things frustrate drivers more than watching their fuel economy quietly decline over months without any obvious cause. No warning lights, no strange noises, just a gradual creep in gas station visits that seems to defy explanation. A major contributor here is something called long-term fuel trim, an adaptive value the ECU calculates to compensate for minor variations in fuel delivery, air intake, and injector performance over time. When this trim value drifts too far from its ideal baseline, often due to a temporary change in fuel quality, a brief sensor malfunction, or seasonal temperature swings, the engine begins running slightly rich or lean without triggering any fault code severe enough to illuminate a warning light. The result is a slow, silent drain on your fuel efficiency that most drivers never connect to their car's computer. The reset trick directly addresses this by clearing the accumulated fuel trim data and allowing the ECU to recalculate optimal fuel delivery ratios from a fresh starting point based on current, real-world conditions. Many owners report fuel economy improvements they can measure within just 1 or 2 tanks of gas following the reset, sometimes regaining several miles per gallon that had quietly disappeared over the preceding months. This is one of the most financially rewarding applications of this trick, since improved fuel economy compounds every single time you fill up, turning a 60-second free procedure into ongoing savings for as long as you own the vehicle. It's a remarkably simple explanation for a problem that sends countless drivers chasing expensive fuel system cleaning services instead. Number 3. Delayed or inconsistent throttle response. That unsettling half-second delay between pressing the gas pedal and actually feeling the car respond is one of the more unnerving issues a driver can experience, especially when merging onto a highway or pulling into fast-moving traffic. Modern throttle-by-wire systems, standard on the vast majority of Japanese vehicles built in the last 15 years, rely entirely on electronic signals rather than a direct mechanical cable connection between pedal and throttle body. This means the ECU is constantly interpreting your pedal input and translating it into throttle plate movement based on a learned relationship between the two. When this learned relationship becomes slightly miscalibrated, whether from a battery replacement, a throttle body cleaning, or simply gradual sensor drift over tens of thousands of miles, the result is throttle response that feels laggy, inconsistent, or occasionally overly aggressive in the wrong moments. This full reset forces the ECU to relearn the throttle position sensor's baseline and rebuild the pedal to throttle mapping from scratch, typically within the first few minutes of driving afterward as the system recalibrates against real pedal inputs. Drivers frequently describe this as one of the most immediately noticeable improvements on the entire list, since throttle lag is something you feel with every single acceleration, not just an occasional symptom. It's particularly effective after any kind of electrical work on the vehicle, including battery swaps, alternator replacements, or aftermarket accessory installations, all of which can disrupt the ECU's throttle calibration in ways that only a full reset can properly correct. Number 2. Erratic dashboard warning lights and gauge glitches. Beyond the check engine light, modern dashboards are packed with dozens of individual warning indicators covering everything from tire pressure to traction control to airbag systems, and each one draws its data from the same central computer network running throughout your vehicle. When this network experiences minor communication errors between modules, something surprisingly common in vehicles with extensive electronics, the result can be seemingly random warning lights flickering on and off, fuel gauges that jump erratically, or speedometers that briefly display incorrect readings before correcting themselves. These glitches are deeply unsettling precisely because they seem to defy logic, appearing without pattern and often disappearing before you can even pull over to investigate. In the vast majority of cases, these are communication hiccups between control modules rather than genuine sensor failures, and they accumulate in the system's memory the same way idle and fuel trim data does. The reset trick clears this accumulated communication error history across the entire module network simultaneously, giving every system on the vehicle a synchronized fresh start. This is particularly effective in vehicles with multiple interconnected computers, a hallmark of Japanese engineering's networked approach to vehicle electronics. where a full reset ripples through every connected module rather than just the primary engine computer. Owners consistently report that this single procedure eliminates warning light glitches that had persisted for weeks or months despite multiple trips to dealerships, where technicians often struggle to reproduce intermittent electronic issues on demand and end up sending drivers home with no real answers at all. Number the unstable idle error. If your car starts, but the engine shakes, the RPM needle jumps up and down, or it feels like it's struggling to stay running when stopped at a traffic light, you're probably dealing with an unstable idle. While many drivers ignore this symptom at first, it's often an early warning sign that something isn't working correctly under the hood. An unstable idle doesn't just make your car feel rough. It can reduce fuel efficiency, increase emissions, and eventually lead to expensive repairs if left unchecked. Several common issues can cause this problem. A dirty throttle body can restrict airflow, while a clogged air filter limits the amount of clean air reaching the engine. Worn spark plugs or failing ignition coils can cause misfires that make the engine shake. Vacuum leaks are another major culprit, allowing extra air into the engine and confusing the air-fuel mixture. A faulty mass airflow (MEF) sensor or idle air control valve can also prevent the engine from maintaining a steady idle speed. In some vehicles, fuel injector problems or low fuel pressure may also be responsible. The good news is that many of these issues are relatively inexpensive to diagnose and repair if caught early. If your car has a check engine light, scan it for diagnostic trouble codes before replacing parts at random. Regular maintenance, including changing air filters, replacing spark plugs on schedule, and cleaning the throttle body, can prevent many idle-related problems. Never ignore an unstable idle.